Okay, so now we're going to do another Chapter 7 problem. Problem 8 is on page 293, and we're going to hear about some pharmaceutical products called Xilex A and Xilex B. First, let's handle Xilex A. The question is, do you want to make the additional processing needed to do Xilex B? Well, in order to make that assessment, we need to figure out how much money we make for Xilex A. Our constraint in this case is time. So if you remember from Chapter 4, anytime you have a constraint, you should get your contribution margin and put it over the units of a constraint. So we're going to be doing that for these two scenarios and then come up with a decision. So they give us a lot of information on the per unit level, so that's how we're going to deal with this problem rather than confuse it by multiplying out the units. The first thing we get from the problem is our selling price. For Xilex A, our selling price is $10 per unit. Then they give us a whole bunch of variable costs. Direct materials is $2.50 per unit, and direct labor is $3 per unit, and variable manufacturing overhead is $2.75 per unit. So since I know that contribution margin is selling price minus my variable costs, I add these variable costs together to get $8.25. So $10 minus $8.25 is $1.75. Now, like we did in the other chapter where we had a constraint problem, we can't compare constraints unless we have things in the units of the constraint. In this case, our constraint is production time. That's measured in minutes. So we take our contribution margin and we divide it by the production time for Xilex A, which is 30 minutes. So that gives us a little under 6 cents, 0.058 per minute. You could round to 6. I wouldn't object to that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to shift the page up, and we are going to go to Xilex B. So Xilex B, as the story will tell you, cannot be made without making Xilex A. So in our analysis, we are going to be figuring out the incremental changes in contribution margin. But because we put everything in terms of per minute at the end, we can compare the additional contribution margin for Xilex B per minute to the contribution margin per minute of Xilex A, and then figure out if it's worthwhile to spend the time making Xilex B, or if we should just spend that additional time making more units of Xilex A. So let's get started. Incremental revenue, they tell us that we will get $6 extra for Xilex B. So Xilex B's selling price is $16. Remember that Xilex A's selling price was $10. So $6 is the incremental revenue on Xilex B. Our incremental direct materials are given to us. We have $2 for increase in direct materials, 80 cents for more direct labor, and $1.30 in increased variable manufacturing overhead. So our incremental variable costs are $4.10. So just like revenue minus variable costs equals contribution margin, incremental revenue minus incremental variable costs equals incremental contribution margin. In this case, it's $1.90. We have to put that in terms of minutes, so because our constraint is, again, production time. So this takes 15 minutes. So that gives us approximately 12, just a little over 12 cents. So you could round that to 13 cents if you want to per minute. So now to bring this all together, I'll bring down our per minute for Xilex A. It was just under 6 cents. So since 12 cents, almost 13 cents, is more than the 6 cents per minute, we will produce Xilex B. So we will continue production and make Xilex B. And that's our decision.